After last year's trip, I wanted to get back to beautiful Tuscarora Lake and beyond. By the time I was able to make my reservation, the Cross Bay Lake entry point was full, so I decided to go in at Missing Link Lake instead. After all, I'd never been to Missing Link, so it would be a new lake for me. The Missing Link entry point requires a short paddle across Round Lake, followed by a 142-rod portage. And so it was that Sam and I arrived at the Round Lake boat landing on the morning of August 16th, 2019, having spent the previous night at the Forest Surface campsite at Iron Lake. The rain that had been in the forecast for the previous night never materialized, so I was able to break camp dry. However, as I made my way to Round Lake to put in, it started sprinkling off and on. As I loaded my canoe, the sprinkles increased, both in frequency and intensity. By the time we were underway, it was raining pretty well, and was progressively getting harder. As we approached the portage, it was raining quite heavily. The portage landing was pretty good, and the beginning of the portage wasn't all that bad. At 142 rods, the distance wasn't all that terrible either. About halfway across the portage, we officially entered the wilderness. From this point on, the trail seemed to get more rugged and muddier. Little did I know, this was just a warm-up for what was to come later. We finally found Missing Link Lake. It was still pouring, and Sam was wet and cold. I decided to try to find a campsite, get a tarp thrown up, and dry off. Poor Sam, he's not very happy. Soaking wet. Well, here we are at the first campsite that we come to in the Boundary Waters. Not my usual style, but as you can see in the video, it was raining on the way over, way in. Sam got soaked. He's shivering like crazy. So, pretty much made up my mind that rather than going on to Tuscarora today, which is what the initial plan was, that I would stay here on Missing Link Lake. Saw this campsite and decided to pass it up. It's really close to the portage for one thing from Round. But there's 3 campsites on the lake. The next one was taken. Next one down from that is right by the Tuscarora portage, and it didn't look very good from the water. So I came back here. Not the best of campsites. There's I could set up a tent here, but it's awfully sloped, very sloped. And then there's a place back in the trees here, but it's pretty small. I'm not sure if my tent's going to fit back in there. I had played with the idea of staying here until the rain stopped and then moving on until the rain stopped and we got somewhat dry, that is. Still might do that, but it's going to take about 2 hours minimum to do the Tuscarora portage, and that's if everything goes well. So, hate to get too late of a start on it. So we might be better off staying here, making the best of it, and then moving on tomorrow. But I really don't know where to set up the tent. It's just not that great of a sight. Nice view from here. Beautiful view. I got Sam dry and warm, had lunch, and the sun started to come out, so I decided to move on. The portage between Missing Link and Tuscarora Lake starts out with a very nice landing. It soon crosses a marsh on a long, if somewhat narrow boardwalk. At 428 rods, it is 1 1/3 miles long, and as I was about to find out, extremely rocky, wet, and muddy. As tough as the Round Lake to Missing Link Lake portage was, the Missing Link to Tuscarora portage was tougher by far. At least the few hills were moderate, without a lot of change in elevation. So these planks are kind of narrow. still get this all the way across the rest of the way. There, 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 there. 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 I'm across. All right. Nearing the end of the portage, I had one last challenge. A fairly steep and rocky slope down to the lake. Finally, and with the help of some kind, younger fellow travelers, I made it to beautiful Tuscarora Lake. It had taken me the better part of 4 hours. Oh, nice landing. Now, utterly exhausted, I had the task of searching the fairly large lake for a campsite for the night. Many of the campsites were taken, and I was considering asking if I could share with one of the other parties. But then I found an open campsite in the northwest part of the lake. This looks like an empty campsite. I'm having a hard time finding a place to land. Best landing in the world, that's for sure. Well, not a real great campsite. Landing leaves a lot to be desired. It's kind of hard to get up in here from the landing, and I'm not sure where I'm going to put the canoe. There's the kitchen area. I can put a tent in here. Not real flat, but a little bit sloped. But I think I can make it do. At this point, it's what, 5 o'clock, and I am tuckered out. That, I believe, is the latrine trail going up that way. We'll find out later. Yeah. Night ideal. I don't have to put a tarp up tonight anyway. It's supposed to rain overnight. I was staying here one night. So I stayed in a lot worse places for more than one night. Oh, gotta get everything up from down below and start. I think first thing on the agenda is going to be making dinner before setting up camp. It's 7 o'clock, almost 7 o'clock, 5:02. And finally getting some water boiled for my dinner tonight. Dinner's gonna be stroganoff, of course. Mountain House stroganoff. That portage really kicked my butt today. I knew it was long, but I wasn't expecting it to be as rugged as it was. There's rocks at various angles, lots and lots of mud holes, swampy areas, few boardwalks. Even the boardwalks, there's some really thin boards from my point of view anyway. You know, when you're balancing a pack and a canoe on your head and you got a board that's, you know, just a few inches wide, it's kind of difficult. There were other groups that were coming over with me at the same time as me. I was the first one to start and the last one to finish. Everybody I was meeting said that the portage was tougher than what they anticipated. I had one group from Shoreview, Minnesota, who they actually took a couple of my, well, they took the packs over on my last carry, and the woman in the group came back with my water bottle when I was carrying the canoe over. So I really thank them. It took me better part of 4 hours to do the portage. I was not quite triple carrying, but I was getting close. For some reason, the canoe is really digging into my shoulders on this trip. I think I have to look into getting some new pads or something, because the canoe was really bothering my shoulders a lot more than it usually does or has done in the past. And so I couldn't carry the canoe very far, not because I was running out of steam or anything, but because my shoulders were just screaming so badly. So that didn't help. And like I said, the portage was a lot tougher. Everybody, or a lot of people in the other groups, said that they fell down, sometimes multiple times. Thankfully, I managed to stay upright for the whole portage, although I did come close a couple of times. So, yeah, it's a beast. Kind of almost erases the memory of the first portage I went across. There again, the canoe was biting into my shoulders, so I did basically a 2.5 carry instead of a 3 or a 2. Managed to carry my canoe and a pack halfway across, more or less. Had to put the canoe down, took the pack across, came back for the canoe, took the other pack all the way across, but no problem. So, along that portage, I did meet one of my viewers. That's always neat to do when you run into somebody out here that recognizes you. I think he said his name was Uncle Buck. So he said he watches all my videos and really enjoys them. He and I actually ran into each other a couple of years ago, the year I hurt my leg, on the portage from Jasper Lake to Alpine, and he took a couple of photos of me and Sam at that time. So thank you, Uncle whatever you say, Uncle Buck. My mind is fried. Sorry I haven't been showing you much around camp, but mostly I've been just sitting here thinking about all the things I not should be doing, have to be doing, and not getting them done. Tent still not set up. I'm not going to set up a tarp tonight. That's supposed to be needed. And if it is, well, that's just too bad. I'm just completely beat. That's all I could do to get my stove out and get things ready to eat. And speaking of which, I see that my stove is starting to steam, so I better tend to it. He's been lazing around as much as I have since we got here. He may not have been carrying anything, but he hasn't been doing much of anything since he got to camp either. Go ahead and show you what we did when we were on a light here. Where we put in was on Round Lake up here. It's outside the boundary waters, but put in there, made our way across Round Lake to this portage, which is 142 rods from Round Lake into Missing Link. And partway across the portage, we saw the wilderness entry sign. Okay, then we got into Missing Link, and that's when it was raining. So I went down. Didn't really like the looks of this campsite to start with, so I decided to keep going down. That campsite was taken. This one was not taken, but it didn't look even as nice as this one there. So paddled all the way back here. Got all my gear out of the canoe. Set up my tarp. And then it quit raining. But I got Sam dried. I waited until we started seeing a lot of blue sky. And then I took off. Had my lunch. I had an early lunch. Then came back down Missing Link. And here's the 428 rod portage from Missing Link into Tuscarora. Again, a lot more rugged than I had been led to believe. And then once on Tuscarora, we came down here. I didn't check out this campsite, which is the one I had last fall, or last August, I should say. There were two parties ahead of me, and as I got here, the one party that was helping me was just about ready to shove off, and they said something. We saw canoes going this way, and they said something about, well, they must have found that this site was taken. So I didn't even bother checking that one, although from when I was paddled past here, looking back, I couldn't see that it was taken, but who knows? It's kind of hard to tell sometimes. So then I paddled past here. There was a large family group on this campsite. I thought about going back around here, but I think that's where the other parties went to, so I decided I wouldn't even try. Thought I'd try for the island campsite. Unfortunately, it was taken. Uncle Buck had told me that that's the site that they vacated this morning, but it was already taken. So then I started paddling over towards this campsite. I didn't get very far. I just basically got around the head of this island, and I noticed a canoe over there, and I started hearing voices and stuff. So, yeah, not that kind of voices. But it was obvious that that campsite was taken. So then I veered off that course, and I came up to this site here. And this site was open, probably with very good reason. It's pretty much a desperation site, but by this time I was getting pretty desperate. I was walking up towards the latrine trail, or up on the latrine trail, to take care of my dishwash water, and I discovered a little side trail here that leads to a couple of decent tent pads. So my night here isn't going to be quite so bad after all. I'm not going to have the view of the lake like I would from one of those others, but I think more importantly I'll have a lot more comfortable time. Now this one here isn't all that great, but this one here will definitely do. Well, there's the finished product. It's a lot darker out here than that makes it look, but it's done. There's Sam there, totally tuckered out, laying down to sleep. Don't know if you can see me or not, but I'm tuckered out too. So we're in the tent now, and everything's put away outside. It's 20 after 9. Don't have to get up quite so early this morning. We got up about 5:15 this morning. So tomorrow morning we can sleep in a little bit. Easier day tomorrow. We're still moving. Gonna move if I'm able, or still planning to move. But should be an easier day. No 428 rod portage for a start. So yeah, looking forward to that. Looking forward to a good night's sleep tonight. Don't think I have anything else to talk to you about, so newbie walks out. See you on trail, watery or otherwise. Night night.